We're getting really close to Rosh Hashanah, and I want to thank Mordechai Shmalo for reminding me that no matter how much I'm traveling, and I've really been traveling a lot, I'm being exhausted, but I'm back on my feet again, and I hope I have time now that I can say something. We're so very close to Rosh Hashanah. What we need to be talking about here is the ultimate meaning, the ultimate secret of Rosh Hashanah. What is the secret that we're working on? What is the Tikkun that we're trying to avail ourselves of? What are we trying to make happen here? How do we understand it? So I've been traveling. I was in New Jersey and I was in different places. And on Shabbat, you hear the rabbis, the Pashtani rabbis, trying to explain what's going on with this or that. How about what's happened with Avraham Avinu or Yitzchak Avinu, or what's it have to do with the count of different days and how we work everything out together. But they have really no idea what the secret of Rosh Hashanah is. In Shul, a prestigious man, came up to me, and they know that I study a little Kabbalah, although I see in the Sephardi Shul where I go, nobody really wants to learn any or has asked me, particular questions. But this man came up to me and he said, what do you think? Abraham had to go through 10 tests on the way to the T.K.E. And the T.K.E. was the last test, the ultimate test. So he passed that test. Now, what do you think? That those 10 tests, they somehow correspond to 10 Sfirot? And I'm thinking he says that the T.K.E. is Malchus. And then he left. Because he didn't really want a discussion. He wanted to say that I'm thinking about this, and that's what I'm working on, and what do you think? So he asked me what I thought, and I said, we'll talk to another rabbi. I know another rabbi, Rabbi Winzelberg, who's big Talmud Chacham and the Makubal. Should ask him. But the point was is that he wanted to talk about this. And the most that you can get out of people who don't know Sod would be a question like this. You could really look at some Sod about on the side of Abraham Avinu. I have my opinions on it, but it's not something the Ari is spending time on. No. He is spending all of his time on the biggest secret of all of Kabbalah, in a way, of all of Kabbalah. It is the secret of the ultimate Tikkun, and that's what we have to talk about today. So we had this story and the different kinds of things. There are many people who come up to you and say different things and want to say a Kabbalistic word. But if you don't know this one word, then you don't know anything about Kabbalah. This one word is called Nesira. Now, I'm going to read a little bit of the Shar Kavanos. This is the very beginning of the third drush. I'll try to make some sense out of it because the concept of Nesira takes place, really, we start seeing it in Shar HaBrudim. Shar HaBrudim is the beginning of the Tikkun, and then Shar Atik, and it goes on in the Otzos Chaim. And we have no background for that. But on the other hand, I made shiurim where there was no background before. So I said, well, let me see if I can't make a shiur here that will tell the ultimate secret. Not only is the secret of the Nesira fundamental to everything that happens in the days between the beginning of Rosh Hashanah all the way through Hoshana Rabbah, or really through Sukkot. Not only does it have to do with that, but it has to do with every single tefillah, because there's the Nesira. The action of the Nesira is taking place in Shachritz, it's in Mincha, and in Mariv also. All of those, the same thing. What is it? It is the ultimate secret. It's the ultimate thing. And now's the time, I think it's like, a person like me, the Ari died because he said some things, he revealed some things that he shouldn't have. And Rebbe Shimon was always very frightened about showing the Palmalia, the host of heaven, to his disciples and his comrades, because of the possibility of unleashing just the tremendous power of the universe in a place where it can't hold it. And that's the concept of the Shefira that we talked about maybe different times, but here we're coming to another concept which is called Nesira, the most important, I think, secret in Kabbalah. So we could say the words, and because you actually have to eat the apple from the outside. So in order to come into the secret of the Nesira, it would take about several months of learning every day in the Otzos Chaim, and you'll get to the concept of Nesira, and you'll understand a little bit about what's going on over here, and we'll try to touch the outside. So the Rav says in the Pesicha, the very beginning of this, If you have the Shara Kavanos, this is Drush 3, like I said before, and the title of it is Be'inyan HaNesira, in regards to the subject of Nesira. Vo Nashlim Nevayer Ha'inyan HaNesira. So now we're going to complete our study, or some words that we're actually going to do in regards to this thing called the Nesira. Shenizbayer B'Drush Shakadim Lazar, apparently it was in the previous Drush. V'chein Nevayer called Inyan Neseris Yimei Tshuva, and as we're explaining the Nesira, then you will begin to understand what's happening in all the 10 days of Tshuva. Why is it that you have a 10-day count? What does the 10 days have to do with, well, where do you put it in? Well, you put it in this concept, in the Sirah. Shemin Rosh HaShana, the Yom Kippurim, those 10 days. Kinei Inyan and Nesira Nemshechas Basara Yomim Elo. But through these 10 days, you have an aspect of this Nesira. Now, it doesn't work that way in Shachrit. It doesn't work that way in Mincha or Arabit. That's a different, it's still in the Sirah, but it's all done at one time. Let's see what, that was the introduction. Now, let's see the actual words of the Rav, and we'll look at the Tiva Kavanos here. Try to get some idea, because I haven't said a word about what the Nesira is all about. But in order to understand the Inyan, let me just preface the Nesira means a surgical operation. The operation of removing the female part of creation from the male part. That's what the Nesira is. And that comes down to what if you could think of this in terms of the tiniest, smallest place imaginable, which is within us, but it's also at the same time outside of us, so it would be the largest imaginable thing, or anything else. But it is called the Nesira, which is a separation of Zachar and Nuk. The male aspect, which is called Zer Anpin, from the female aspect, which is also often called Malchus. Very, very deep subject, how this is part of creation, and we're talking about the 6 days of creation, as remember back before when we started counting. We started on the 17th of Elul. We talked about the Shvira that took place then. We talked about the 25th day of Elul, as we're in these days now, the 25th day of Elul, when creation starts in the various different parts until you get to Adam Arishon. But this is all what we call a dugma. It's a outside of the onion, but inside of the onion is where the real power is, and that's what the Nesira is directing itself to, because we have, as Jews, the privilege of being able to effect a Tikkun at the beginning of creation. It's happening right now. And it's going to happen again every single day, 3 times, like I said, but really powerfully for the year on Rosh Hashanah. So here's what the Rav says. This is number Aleph. He did this boyer b'drush shakadim. So he explained, ki inyan in the sirihi lahasir kol b'chinas adinim asher ba'achrei zah. We have a concept in Kabbalah of panim va'ach. That is the face and the back. You never see in the Kohen, it doesn't say Yisa achrayim, or lift up your back. No, it's always the face, because the concept of the face is a concept. It's a concept that integrates itself into reality. Is the shining shines from the face of what's panimi to us, for the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, onto us, out towards us, out, or from up above, down below, any kind of different kind of relationship. Everything is relative. Any relationship that you like, you figure it out. But what it is that there's a panemius, which is closest, or in fact, the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, and then there is reality around it. There is a panemius which is also beyond us, in beyond creation, and shining down through all of creation to us as well. Different kinds of ideas. So he says, Ki inyan and Nesira hi lahasir kol b'chinas adinim. Why are we doing a Nesira? Because it turns out that the concept of front and back is the concept of kindness and din. That's chesed and gevura. Listen, all the different kinds of between, I've been listening to some things about Einstein, and Einstein is really not able to even come close to the toenail of the Rav, because you shouldn't even say that. But the idea is there are things to be observed and understand and understood in science. So he says that you have here concept of back and front being kindness, back being dinim. Dinim are punishments. What you're trying to do is create a female element that can be makabel, the dinim, from the back of Zer Anpin, making Zer Anpin completely chesed, and making the female element completely gevura. That is the Nesira in just a few short words, and boy, it doesn't make it, it's not sweet, straight, and easy to explain without additional study. But let's see what the tip says. So he says, so we had several different preliminary ideas, and in them we said, generally speaking, some ideas about the Nesira. As called Inyan HaNesira. But now I want to tell you what other details, the specific parts. Rosh Hashanah ad Yom Kippurim, that this actually Nesira takes place over the course of 10 days. Please remember that this is the biggest secret of all, because you'll talk to your local rabbi and he will never heard of the word. So therefore, what they're trying to do, of course, on Rosh Hashanah, we need tshuva, and we need all the different things that bring us closer back to connect to Hashem. But he won't know about the Nesira, because this is the real job of coming back. Behem Naseris, parts of Nuk, parts of Zah. Originally, Zah was male and female. Remember, like we had the dogma, the metaphor for Adam Rishon. Adam Rishon had a tail, so he had something female behind him that was attached. Actually, a part of him was attached to him. So now we say that function is that the backside represents dinim, our punishments. Like, somebody's got your back, or somebody's behind you, or always looking at, what's coming at you. That's a defensive position. That's what the back is about. It doesn't have eyes. And if Radim is holchim lanuk, so that we take all the dinim from the male aspect and we put them into the nuk, into the female aspect. Now, originally Zav was two, but right, so we know that in Adam and Eve's story, she is separated from him. He goes into a deep sleep. All of this works into the secret of the Nesira, because this, in fact, is the secret of the Nesira. This is that all of the bounty that Zah has inside of him, which his purpose is to really build the Nuk. And so you have to ask a question, so why is it so important to build the Nuk? What's that all about? We take everything that's inside of Zah, he goes to sleep, just like with the story. It's fell complete, it's called the Tardema. And these mochin that are inside of him that are really destined for the T.K.E. now come out of him and go into her. And she is built up that way, and through these dinim she's built up. Now what are we saying here? He said that the female aspect is made out of dinim, and the male aspect is made out of chasadim. It's just such a wild idea. But that's a very important idea, that everybody has to understand that men and women are irreconcilably different. There's no way that you can get her to think like you or him to think like you if you're going the other way. It just doesn't work that way, because the movements are different. Dinim are punishments. We're trying to sweeten the dinim when we're coming to Rosh Hashanah. But on the other hand, without dinim, you don't have creation, because creation is a tzimtzum. It's a din. It's a squeezing. That's what dinim are. Dinim is squeeze. And the reason why we're building it into the Nuk is because the female aspect of reality, which is this world, which is female, ball-shaped. And don't ever forget that while we are talking or listening, we're moving through space, right? In more than one way. The way I'm at right now, I'm facing west, so the world is turning this way. And it's moving around the sun. And all those planets that are around the sun are moving through space. So we're not just sitting here doing nothing. And people are moving too. We're moving in and out of life. We're moving in and out of houses. We're moving. We're already moving. Why does the Nuk need this? Because a man can't create a child. He can't bring a child into the world. Now, this is a metaphorical child. This is a child that's, say, the child of the creation of a neshama, if you want to talk about it strictly in a spiritual form. If you only want to talk about it in the spiritual, but you also have a dogma and a metaphor for that in the physical world. Because the woman is the creator. She is the shaper. That's what women do. They shape things. They protect, they shape, they have all different kinds of things. And what we need to do is build a structure in reality, female, which is acceptant of the seed that comes from the man, just like in people. We have to build her up, build her up, build her up. And how do we do it? By giving her dinner. Because that's what she's good at. That's what she's made to do. So we don't like, on the one hand, we don't like being picked on, and we don't like being worked over, and we don't like this. And from the female's perspective, and necessarily like the fact that they're not getting the response and things aren't going the way that they want them to go because the man is, just going on his way no matter what. This difference, these two things, when they come together, they create life itself. They have nothing to do with each other except that they're extremely, extremely attached and attracted to each other. And then why is the reason why they're so attracted to each other? Why are men so attracted to women and women so attracted to men? Because they used to be one. It's like you take, they're alive and you took them and you separated them, and that's the Nesira. For the purpose of building up the Nukva. You take all the dinim that are on the back of Zah, and you give it to her on the other side, and she grows. She grows up to be his height. She grows up to be an independent base, like creating something out of virtually nothing. Because just like we see the idea of creation itself, and the Nuk comes into being and grows up, and is able to come around from the back and be an independent element, not part of the back of what we used to call Zun, or Zachar v'Nuk, that is the male, Zah, who is female and male. And now it's going to be Zah is going to be all male. And the female is going to be all female. She's going to have all the dinim, and he's going to have all the chasadim. Now we have to understand that chesed does not necessarily mean, he's a nice guy and she's not nice. That's not what it means at all. It means that his function in life, and you should read this, the book Garden of Peace, where it's really taking a Rebbe Nachman, but the Rebbe Nachman is really taking the Rav. It's really showing you how the two different forces, that is the force of chesed, which is always wants to give and go and go and go and go and go, and the force of din, which is revisionism, which is cultivating, which is forming and changing, and protecting also. All of that, those two things, when they come together, they create life. But by themselves, we have to work on it. Let's go along a little bit more. So he says, where we start, he says, Dahainu shachadinim sheba'achrei keser dezah. So this is how it goes. Since there are 10 spots along Zah, those are the 10 spheros, from Ketzer down to his Malchus, Cholchin the Keser the Nuk. They go over and they build the Keser the Nuk. Mekach nivnes a Keser the Nuk, and this way builds up a Keser for the Nuk. She starts out with a Keser. That Keser came from where? Came from the Keser the Zah. V'chadinim sheba'achrei ha'chachman the Zah, Cholchin the chachman the Nuk. And then as you go down Zah, remember, again, it's not a person, but you could use a metaphor to say that it's similar to the formation of a person. This is a spiritual structure at the base, the incipience, at the font of reality, as we know it. Male and female, he giving to her and she receiving these dinim and becoming stronger. Mekach nivnes spheres hachachma the Nuk, and this is how from the sphera of the chachma of Zah, the dinim on the acharayim of there go over to her, and she starts being built up. Now, the one thing that I didn't mention is that for their own protection, because the world that we live in is a world of danger, in the sense that the fantasies of evil are just around us all the time, talking to us. Actually, we do know that Chava was tempted. Of course, the Eibishter knew that was going to happen anyway, because it's all a part of bringing us down to reality. Rant now. So let's finish up, because this is tell all your friends and all your neighbors that is such a thing as a Nesira. Now, the study of the Nesira is like looking at the Merkava that Yecheskel saw. Every single word is glorious and fantastic. Every single idea of how this works. But understand that there are 10 days and then 10 spheros. It's not so simple as just moving from Sred Kesser, his Kesser, to her Kesser, and moving his dinim from there over to her, and then Chachma like that. It starts out like that, but it gets more complex. That's part of our study. And the more that you see this and the more you're able to understand it, the more light that you're able to let into your life. Now, in your local Siddur, I've been using the Svart Siddur some. You maybe see some hints on this, but you really won't get it until you reach a level of competence where you can start learning kavanos. And that's, of course, we're learning Shar Kavanos. We're trying to understand what's going on here. So there's just the last lines here. V'yishar zah, so after these transfers takes place, bebechinas chesed, he will become completely chesed, v'nukva, and his female aspect, and that is his partner, bebechinas dinim. So he said, Adesha noser es adinim mosram lanuk. So now we understand what noser means in the Nesira. The Nesira means the removal of the dinim from the behind of Zer Anpin and placing them in the nook. And we have formulas for that comes from the Rishash. It's just absolutely, just spellbinding to see them. I don't want to say that I'm an expert at it. I'm working at it for years. And I'm not particularly, again, I feel like I'm getting better. But it's a deep subject, but one that's full of light, and that's what we do it. Nasizah kula chesed, so Zah becomes kula chesed, v'nuk kula din, and she becomes completely din. G'der shnei nashim, so it's like, he says, the Tivra, it's like two men. Asher lechem shtei deus sosros. They have two different ideas. They don't get along. This one thinks this way, that one thinks that way. In other words, one is going in the mind of chesed. Chesed means giving. And as long as this is what you give from this book, Garden of Peace, as long as the man is going on the giving side, he's going to have a good relationship. When he wants to try to get something back, that's when things go wrong. It's a simple idea, because the nature of the male element is to give. Now, the female element is the opposite. Her nature is to receive, and as long as she's receiving, she's happy. Of course, it's hard to figure out what she needs, but she needs, because she's needy. So she has a male part. But these two things they're not similar. Giving and receiving are opposites. But that's the way the Eibishter wants it. If you could put those things together, you have the ultimate, this is called the Shiluv of Havaya and Ekya. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. Of Havaya and Adnus. So you have this wonderful, wonderful thing. Let's finish up. That even though they're right next to each other, so they're considered to be separate, far away from each other. So this is also the way that he was talking, that was a story about the two friends who don't agree, and they're far away from each other. The same thing is true of the male and the female. Because din and chesed they don't blend. Unless, of course, you have the middle line, which is the line of Tiferes, they can blend them. Nigram bechem richuk v'hafroda, it causes them distancing from each other and separation. Shazat sod hanesira. That is the separating of not being one element, which is male and female, and being separated in a certain way, which gives all the power that he has to give to her. So that all of his power of dinim go over to her, and she becomes a big bundle of, well, I don't know if this is right to say, of dinim. She becomes independent. I don't need you anymore. Of course, they need each other if they're going to reproduce. And that's where we see the concept of the Sira. Because what is it that we are ultimately looking for? It's bracha. The old bracha can only come from the peace, which is the word shalom, which is shlemut, which is completeness. The only way is that this can come about is through this shlemut. It can only be the men and women coming together and reproducing. It's interesting that when you get older, I see that the Mekubalim, I've seen written that they think that men and women living together is fine, even though that it's not going to lead to having children, because the effort that is required to join these two opposing things together is enough to produce neshamas chadashos, the new neshamos, that is, new insights and godliness into the world and into the Jewish people. So I'm going to try to, keep trying to make more shiurim. I wanted to say this one about the Nesira. I think that, like I said many times, like I go to a different shul, like sometimes in Boca, and so somebody wants to talk to me about Kabbalah, and they want to say something. I said, well, about the Nesira, and okay, well, no idea, never heard of it. Well, now, if you're listening to this year, you heard of it, and you did the best I could to make a simple explanation. There's so many gorgeous parts, golden, beautiful, beautiful, sunshiny parts to this. And we have to know it. You are playing with dinim, and dinim are full of fire. So I wish you all a kativa v'chatima tova, k'sim v'chasiva teva. I hope I'll be able to get back on the air before Rosh Hashanah's with something else. And I do have more that I want to say, naturally. So you never know. Maybe I will. Okay. All the best. Have a wonderful, wonderful new year.